But yeah, it was good.
Before starting the session, I want to know your opinion about that what I told you last night, Animals Farm. It's written. It's been written, 50 years ago. Just compare it with the situation now. It's really, uh, as it's really somehow. I think it's written for this situation.
I think it was a book which was ahead of itself.
Yeah, really. I think at least at least 50 years ahead of his age.
Yes,
Just that. Excuse
sure.
me. Just that.
Yeah. So tonight's topic, I think, is about neighbors.
Yeah, it's about neighbors. Would you like to start or waiting for others?
Yeah, let's wait for some minutes.
Yeah.
Hi, Matthew.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Good night.
You.
Good
Good
night.
night to you too. Sorry to interrupt you. I am Mahdi's sister. She was busy tonight, so I'm here.
Really? You're older or younger?
Older.
Older. Very nice. Very nice. You
Yes,
all, you all are studying English.
I'm an English teacher. Yes.
Oh, very nice.
Fantastic.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good to have you here.
Yes. Tonight's topic is about neighbors. I don't know if Matthew told you or not.
Yes, yes. She told me that tonight you're going to talk about neighbors and
Yes.
the neighbors' rights, maybe, yeah?
Yeah. Matthew, do you live in an apartment or you have, your privacy? I mean, you have one floor house.
I am teaching in an English institute.
No, I meant where do you live? You live in an apartment?
Yeah, I am
Or a
living
house?
in an apartment. I'm sorry because I don't have your voice.
My voice is not
Sometimes
clear for you.
yeah, thank you. That's better now. I'm living in an apartment. I mean, I'm living in a 4-story apartment. I'm in the first floor.
So how are your neighbors? Are you good with them?
Perfect. They're very good neighbors. I really like all of them.
Really?
Sure.
Is there anything that your neighbor do that it annoys you?
Absolutely. You know, there are things that people do when you are living in an apartment. Sometimes people do things that you don't really like. The point is, you need to get along with them. You don't show extreme reactions. If you show extreme reactions, then the situation would be a tense situation. So you need to cope with, or I mean, deal with the situation in a way that not only your friendship continues, but also the problems are settled.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. How about you, Mansoor? Do you live in an apartment?
Yeah, I do live in an apartment, 6th floor. We are 12 neighbors. They are all good. They don't make much noise, and they are all good, respectful people.
So, do
I
they
have no
annoy you?
No, they are really quiet.
Very. I think you are very,
I am lucky.
yeah, lucky to have such neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live in an apartment too. We live in a 4th floor, and we have really good, neighbors. Actually, the one which is beside, because there are 4 uh, floors. I mean, there are 4 flats in each floors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is pretty crowded, you know, noisy it should be.
I think it could be noisy.
But no, it's not. Yeah, there are 20 families live here,
too much. No.
but it's not that busy, because I think they really care about uh, the laws, apartment laws.
Yeah.
They really care about other people's privacy. So are you a kind of person who borrowed something from their?
Sorry.
Are you a kind of person who borrowed things from their neighbors?
When I was, yeah, please go ahead.
Ladies first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What was your name?
Sorry, I don't have.
Ms. Mahdiye.
Miss Mahdi's sister. I think he doesn't have our voice.
Yes, now I do. I do now. Yeah, sure. Why not? No, it's okay. I do have your voice now. You're talking about whether I borrow things from my neighbors, huh?
Yeah.
Personally, I try not to do that. Sometimes you have to, because the apartments these days are not like relationships between the people in apartments. These days are not exactly like the relationships people had in past. In past, people had very close relationships with each other because they could see each other, talk to each other, they trusted each other more. These days, people who are living in an apartment, they don't really know each other. They cannot trust each other easily. The only relationship they have is just saying hello, how do you do, how's everything, and wishing the best for each other. Normally, we don't socialize above that borders. I mean, never ever has happened to me. I go to my neighbor and ask for something like 2 eggs or an onion or some bread. I mean, like the past,
Really?
People in past felt easier to do that.
You never have been out of those things, in emergency?
I have been. Yes, I have had emergencies, but I have never felt relaxed enough, comfortable enough to do that, because maybe it's because of the neighbor's action, but the neighbor's behavior. They never show very welcoming behavior. They're not very welcoming in order for me to feel that comfortable to go to them and say, for example, hey, I ran out of sugar. Would you give me some sugar or something like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. But do you really care about your neighbors?
Sorry, again? Pardon?
Do you really care about your neighbors? Hi, Farid.
Care about?
Sorry to interrupt
care
you.
about?
I am at a station, train station. Just have a tour and I then leave.
No problem.
Yes. You seem busy. Yeah. You were saying.
I'm sorry.
I said, what's your name? Did you mention your name?
No, I didn't. My name's Masume.
Yes. So you were saying.
Yeah. About caring for neighbors or caring about neighbors. They are neighbors to me. I don't want to exaggerate it. They are very important to me, or I don't caring as much as I know about them. Sometimes I see, for example, my neighbor on stairs. She's going upstairs, and I see that she's got a bad cold. Maybe the next time I see her, I ask, "Are you okay? Are you better? Or if I can do something for you." But it's not like a family member or like the neighbors before.
Yes, you're right. How about you, Matsu?
Caring
you
about
borrow
them.
things? No, do you borrow things?
Sometimes, yes. It's not about eggs or, I don't know, potato or just tomato. It's about somehow, you need something like apartment ladder or something like that. They come to us, and sometimes I go to them for borrowing something, but not, you know, eggs or something like that.
Eggs and things were just examples.
No, I just,
Yeah,
I mean,
I meant
you know,
the relationship, you know.
Actually, I'm really basically an introverted guy. You know, I don't have any, you know, relationship with my neighbors. Somehow, as me said, I think trusting people, for me, it's very difficult for me.
How about your wife? Hi, Mr.
Yeah.
Wali.
Hi, how are you? I'm
have-
sorry, I had some problem with
Welcome.
Yeah,
Skype. Yeah, thank
you
you.
were saying.
My wife, she has a really personality very, very near to my personality. You know, she is an introverted guy too.
Yeah, she won't borrow things like you.
I don't think so. No.
How about your neighbors? Do they borrow things from you?
Sometimes they come because I have, you know, an apartment ladder. Sometimes they come to us, and they you know, they want to borrow our apartment ladder. Yeah.
So are you welcome to them?
Yes, always.
Yes. Very nice. How
Whenever
about you?
whenever they need,
Go on.
whenever they need help, I will help. I don't hesitate.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah,
How about you,
absolutely.
Mr. Wali?
Yeah. What's
You
the
have
question?
neighbors.
Yeah.
Tonight's topic is about neighbors.
Yes. You know, I live in a special apartment. You know, about our building has 5 apartments, and me and my brothers and one of my brother and my sisters live here. I mean, all of our neighbors are brothers and sisters. Me,
Very good.
yes,
Yeah.
I live here with 3 of my sisters and one of my brothers.
Family apartment.
Yes,
Yeah.
family apartment. Yes.
It seems exciting. What?
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a new experience, I think. And
Does it have
yeah,
Does it have disadvantages?
yes. At first, I thought, and there are some disadvantages of being all relatives in the same building. But for that, at first I was in doubt that I came here or not. But after I came here, because I thought maybe my wife will have some problem with my sisters. But after I came here, I found that all things are okay, and especially for the children, because most of us has only child, so they can play with each other in the yard, and I think this is the biggest advantage of being together. And for me, because 3 of my sisters are here, is very good for me, especially for me, because whenever my family is not here, I can choose one of my sisters and my brother to go and have dinner or have lunch with them. At first, most time we have a group, and when I'm going to have lunch with one of them, I announced them in our Telegram group, and I asked them their food for lunch. and I choose and this is like a menu in restaurant, and I can choose the
You choose
lunch.
between them, yeah.
So you
Yes.
have open menu.
Yes, and that's very good. And you know, my son, sometimes my son doesn't like food that his mother cooked, and he go and choose one of his aunts, and he eat there.
Yeah, I see that it has lots of benefits, especially for you,
Yes, especially
because
for me and for my
they're
son.
your relatives. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe it would be, somehow hard for your wife. I don't know, but it has lots of options for you too.
Yes,
Sorry,
and
can
but
I say something?
it is difficult to manage them, because because all of us are close relatives, so we have to have some rules. And
Yeah,
we had some rules as other buildings, because I think rules make us to have a good relationship, and
absolutely.
we care that we don't destroy this relative. Yeah.
Yeah. You were saying something, Miss Massuman?
Yes, our friend mentioned something really worth mentioning, and that was the children, the kids. Kids who
Yes.
grow up in apartments, usually, because these days most of the kids are the only children, like my son, who is 5 years old, almost 6, and they are alone. There's nobody to play with them. And the neighbors, each of the neighbors has just one child, if they do. Most of them in our flat, they are most old people. And the point is, the children these days don't have a chance like the children in the past to go out and play with the other kids out on the street or in the alley. If neighbors have good relationship with each other, mothers can take all the children out together, and they take care
Yeah.
of the children at the same time, let them play in the yard. And for our
Yeah.
friend who mentioned this point, that he lets the kids go out and play in the yard, I guess that's the most important advantage of their situation, besides all the other advantages that they have. Kids these days have really limited situation. That's why most
Yes.
of them are introverted. Most of them are like to play with a cell phone. They don't socialize much, and this is because of the flats or apartments we live in. I guess if we had a big yard, my son would go into the yard like our childhood and play with mud, soil, I don't know, everything in the yard, and be more creative in doing things.
So,
That's
Yes.
why mostly we take our children to the park to
Yes.
remove that limitation.
That's a big problem. That the only child is a big problem for these days. But we could we have solved this problem by living in this situation, because
Very good.
all of our children play together in the yard, and we improved some facilities for them in the yard, and all of them can play together in the yard. And when one of my sisters or brother go out, he or she take all of the children with her to park, for example, and
Very good.
this is one of the advantages.
how
Yes,
about you,
very good.
Mansoor?
About what?
About your children?
I have
Do
two
they
child.
get along with your neighbors' children?
Somehow, a children world is somehow is including everything. Fighting each other, playing with each other. Yeah, it's common. It's
You
natural.
have two kids, yeah?
Yeah,
Mansoor?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, the older one is the daughter. She's about, I think, 12 years old, I think, or 11, 12.
You ought to
Well,
keep that.
yeah. The second one is 3 years old.
Good.
It's a boy.
Do
My
they
son.
play with with the children of your
They go-
neighbors?
Yeah, they go to yard and playing with with our neighbors' children. You know, I told you, child's world, include everything, fighting together and playing together.
Have you
Natural.
had any struggle with with other children?
Yeah, sometimes yes. And I go and I solve the problem. You are
Did you
child, you are
interfere?
friends, play together instead of fighting together. Just playing together, play together. Yeah,
Even
it's. I
fighting
think
is
I
important.
think it's natural.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
absolutely natural.
Yeah.
So we have another question here. Describe an interesting neighbor you have had. Have you ever
Uh,
had a neighbor that you really like them?
Up to now, I had ordinary, neighbors. They were just neighbors, nothing more.
How about the
No,
time when you were single?
when I was single, I was living in my father's, home, and uh, I didn't really have much time to, get to know our neighbors. I had some friends, classmates, neighbors, children. I had, but they are ordinary people.
Yeah,
They
I
were all
got your
good.
point. I
Yeah.
got your point. How about you, Ms. Mahdi? Ms. Masume, sorry.
No problem. About a neighbor that I really like, as our friend said, that my neighbors are normal. I really don't care more for them, just neighbors. But about 6 years ago, we had a neighbor, a very old woman, who lived our downstairs, and she was really kind. She really liked me and she helped me. At that time, I was pregnant and had my child the first month. She really took care of me like a mom. She came up and asked me if I needed any help or if she could be of any help to me. The only problem about her was that her telephone always rang and she talked so loudly and we didn't have chance to take a rest, and she talked so loudly, and she always was washing the yard, and especially at that time Iran was suffering from a very bad drought. There was no water, and always the government mentioned on television that we should take care of how much water we use. And I always mentioned her that don't wash the yard all the time. You don't have to do that. You get tired. And I didn't want to bother her, but she didn't understand. I just wanted to mm, through a hint to mention that you're wasting water, but she didn't just get it, and I just didn't want to bother her because she would get offended. She was old, and the old people have a very kind heart. They would get offended very soon. I just want to mention something and about the relationship between the neighbors. I guess the good relationship between neighbors makes an apartment safer to live in. When people know each other, when they trust each other, when they help each other, you feel safer and more comfortable to live in the apartment or even in the area or the neighborhood. Like when my child, there is a supermarket across from our apartment on the other side of the street. Not a street, in fact, an alley. But I hardly let my child go to the supermarket and shop for something because I don't think it's safe at all. If my neighbors know my son, even if my son when he's out, and if something dangerous happens to him, or if they see that someone or something is going to bother him, they would take care of him, or even myself when I'm out, or uh, sometimes when I'm out, I tell my neighbor in front of my next door neighbor that we are going to travel, we are taking a trip, please take care of our house. We do things like that. The good relationship between the neighbors makes the area safer. You feel more comfortable, you feel relaxed enough to go out to socialize with them. And we have an old saying in Iran that says a good neighbor is even better than family members or
Yeah,
relatives.
yeah.
So
But I think it doesn't exist anymore because, as you mentioned, we should trust each other. But now it's really hard to build a suitable trust like the old times.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard
Sorry, I
nowadays.
have to mention that this year my husband and I are the managers of the building. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and
I found it's a really hard job.
very, very difficult. At the same time that you have financial responsibilities, you are responsible for controlling the relationship between the neighbors. Sometimes there is a harsh situation, the neighbors have the discussions or arguments with each other, and you are in charge of everything that happens in the building. I tried mostly um, to control the situation in a way that the neighbors feel comfortable to talk to each other. I put some meetings every month, and I ask them to be in the meeting with their wives, because usually men participate in these
Yeah.
meetings. I ask them to come with their wives to get more familiar with each other, to socialize more with each other, to know each other better. Now the situation is a lot better, and I try to have some cultural activities, like for Nowruz holidays I set a beautiful table of half seen and things like that, and in the first stair, and then everybody was so happy to see that, you know. These things can improve the etiquettes, I mean the
Yeah.
neighborhoods etiquettes. Mm, we talk about things, we talk about our problems, and we improve this culture that when you have a problem, talk about it, uh, discuss it, and make conclusions.
Uh, How about you? Thank you, Ms. Masume. How about you, Mr. Wali?
Yeah, I think the between neighbors have changed in recently because in the past neighbors supposed to help each other and lend each other their facilities and in neighbor when one of neighbors has something that rarely use during the year a year, others can use that for example gardening for something like that. But these days with apartments relationship between neighbors have changed. But I think the question, because the question was about the best neighbors that we have
Yeah,
ever had.
yeah.
I think the some good characters for a best neighbor is, for example, smiling. You know, smile is one of the simplest act that has a biggest effect on the neighbors, and neighbor have to the best neighbor is who uh, who has a good contact, eye contact, and greets when he or she pass by others, not someone who just rush and didn't didn't say even hello to others. And the other character is, for example, feeding their soul. I can say this is one of the best character, because good neighbor surprise others by, for example, giving them something that they didn't expect it. For example, when one of neighbors has flu or sick, others can give them just a bowl of soup. This is not very important, but this some acts like this can have a good effect on them.
Yeah.
And I think others is welcoming, for example, a good neighbor welcome to new neighbors, and because when someone come to a new building, he or she don't know anyone, and he extremely needs someone to help him and to talk him. So this is one of the good character for being a neighbor. And the other is about not disturbing others, disturbing but by, for example, a loud noise, and disturbing but by and not responsibility don't responsibility about for example garbage, about parking the car in the in
Parking
suitable
spots.
parking. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And no, at first I think at first having some good characters and not disturbing others. When someone has a good characters and not disturbing others, is the best neighbor, I think.
Are you done, Mr. Riley?
I'm trying to be someone like that, but because I think I'm here about 6 years. So as I said, we are in a special building. So because all of us are relatives, so we have to have this. But
Yeah.
and when one of us, for example, and has a loud noise, others not mention that and not disturb for that, because they know the events for them, and they forgive them because it's they sisters or brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I myself recall, I think more than 10 years ago, we had a neighbor in our next door. There were 7 of us in their family. They had 2 boys and 2 girls. Uh, the girls, actually, one of them had a really good relationship with my mother. Each and every day, uh, uh, came around and visited my mother. They talked about things. They went out and they get along well with each other. And actually, I had good relationships with the boys. I went to their apartment. We played games. Uh, we played football. We talked about everything. Actually, even we invited them for dinner or lunch, or sometimes they might invited us for having lunch. But nowadays, as you all mentioned, the relationship has changed. It's not like past anymore. We cannot trust people. We cannot let them to let them in our privacy. I don't know if it is good or not, but I myself would like it better that way. I mean, like the old times say.
Yeah, absolutely. The old times were better.
Yeah. How about you, Mansoor? Are you?
Yeah, the old time,
Do you agree? Do you agree
definitely.
with me?
Yeah, definitely the old time was better because, you know, when I was going out, I don't know, from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, my parents didn't ask about me, and they were, you know, confident that I'm okay. But now when my son goes out for only just 30 minutes, I really am worried. I go out and asking about him and what is he doing, you know. But before, I think yes, you are right. Before it was better, I think. The situation,
Yeah.
the situation for the children was better. They could play, they could, you know, handle each other. But now, no, not like before.
Mansoor, have you ever been in charge in your, buildings? Have you ever been
N- No,
responsible?
several times they offered me, but no, I don't like those kind of, you know,
Why?
stuffs.
Why?
Being in
What?
charge of apartment, I prefer to pay charge every month and not being in charge of, you know, apartment.
What is your duty? If I wear them, I would force you to do that.
No, they didn't force me. They just offer,
Yeah.
you
What?
know. They just,
What if I wear? I would.
why? Why?
Because
I
it's your
didn't.
duty.
I didn't do anything wrong. I'm a good guy, you know, paying my
Yeah,
charge
you
in
are.
time, and
You are a good
I,
guy, but you have to be
I'm a really,
responsible.
really,
You have to be under pressure too, because it's a hard job.
you know, I'm a really quiet guy. Go to work,
No.
back to home, studying, and no, I don't much. I don't make much noise, you know. That's why I think you know, I'm an introverted guy, and no, I don't like to be in charge of apartment.
How about the person who is in charge? Are you satisfied with him or her?
Yeah, uh, he was good before, you know. He was doing his job well, but no, I don't know. It's for 3 months, I think. He's not care about the apartment. No, I don't know. He's busy or something wrong with him. If I see him, I will tell him what's wrong
Yeah.
with you. If you cannot do, you know, your job, then quit the job and let someone else, not me, someone else do your job.
How about you, Ms. Masume? You mentioned that now you are in charge.
Yeah.
What, is does it change each and every year?
Yes, absolutely. Every year, one of the other members, I mean, all of the flat members have to take the responsibility. If we have volunteers, the volunteers would be in charge. If not, the ones who haven't had this responsibility before must be in charge. There is no option, like our friend Masood. No one can
Yeah.
escape it. It's a bitter pill to swallow. They have to take the responsibility because it's a big responsibility, and you cannot force the others to accept it 2 times. You know, there are
Yeah.
people. I said there are people who are volunteers, but if someone really doesn't want to accept the situation, the responsibility, they should convince the others. Like they might have a problem, for example, they go to work, they don't have time, they are on shift work, for example, or they cannot manage it. If not, they have to accept the responsibility. Not
So,
have to, but we convince them, just very friendly, in a friendly manner.
are you satisfied with all of them? I mean, was there someone who you had a problem with him or her?
Uh, yes, we have had people who didn't care. They were the manager, they were responsible, but they didn't do anything. They didn't care about the problems that happen in the apartment. Like, for example, when there is a problem with the electricity, as the manager or as the person in charge, you are responsible for finding an electrician to come and deal with it. Or
Yeah.
when there is a noise or when there is a problem, you have to settle the problem down. We have had people who uh, didn't care about the situation and just took it easy. The name was, by name they were in charge, but people themselves did everything. So we changed them very soon.
Yeah, I knew what you were talking about.
I found the way how to avoid it, you know. If they put me in charge of apartment, I don't do anything. And they will change me soon.
You must have
Thank you.
commitments, you know. You are
Thank you. Thank you for the way you showed me.
An apartment is like a small society you live in. If everyone in the society wants to evade the responsibilities, then the society would be like, sorry, I'm so sorry to use this jungle. The apartment is exactly like that. All of us are responsible for the things that happen around us. Okay, all of us must have commitment.
Yeah.
I say, if I escape the responsibilities, my neighbor escapes the responsibilities, the other neighbor escapes the responsibilities. So who is going to be responsible? You are the only one in your flat who doesn't want to be in charge. Now suppose nobody in your flat wants to be in charge. Then what would happen?
No, it was just joking. Excuse me. But when I talked to my neighbors, you know, there were some volunteers. You know, there were some of my neighbors want to be in charge. You know, if there is no one, it could be, you know, intern. You know, it could be intern. And when it got my turn, I do my job. I don't, you know, accept any responsibility unless I do it completely.
That's very good. So
yeah,
you'd better accept it and do it completely.
Guys, where is Said? Did he sold out any one of you?
No, I think he's gonna preparing the report, you know, from the last night. And sending to.
He's in prison, yeah.
Yeah, and sending this to
last
those
night we have some. He had some politics subjects, so maybe he's in the prison.
Yeah, no, but he wanted.
No,
but he wanted to put us in a prison.
He's not gonna go to prison. You know, he's the one who preparing the reports. I think is someone who can put us in prison.
Yeah. So you, Mr. Valley, do you have something to add?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Do you have something to add for the topic?
For topic, no, not exactly. But you know, in my apartment, because I am the oldest one, I am responsible for all things. But I try to divide the responsibilities with my brother and my sisters here. For example, one of my sisters is responsible for cleaning, and the other is responsible for repairing, and I divided the responsibility and I distributed it. And but I'm as oldest brother, I'm responsible for all the things in our building.
Yeah, all things, I think the main thing is on your shoulder. Guys, we really had a nice discussion tonight, and we are honored to have you, Ms. Masume, here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are we going to have you in other sessions too, or we just have you tonight?
I hope so. Tonight I'm a guest in my mom's house, and Mahdiya was busy baking a cake for my brother's birthday. So I took the responsibility, took over the responsibility. I really like to, you know, if I can, I would really like to join you in your discussions.
Yeah, we would be happy.
Thank you. Pleasure's mine. You know, that was very good. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, and I hope that in future I will see you again and talk to you.
Yeah, you too.
It's a pleasure.
All right, you master. Do you have something? I'm gonna dismiss the discussion.
No, thank you. Thank you for all of you that you listen to my statements.
Yeah. Have a good night, guys.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Have a good time.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of the night.
You too.
Bye.